After 3 years of divorce, Donald found hope again with Adela, a beautiful, gentle woman who made him believe in new beginnings for himself and his son. But when he flew to Miami to surprise her during her business trip, everything shattered. Standing outside her hotel room, he heard laughter, heavy breathing, and her voice whispering intimate words to her boss. His love collapsed in seconds. Instead of confronting her, Donald chose silence. He would plan carefully what he would do next. Forgive or begin a war no one expected. Donald taught history at Lincoln High School. The job paid enough to cover rent and groceries, and he liked the rhythm of it, standing in front of teenagers who pretended not to care, watching them slowly wake up to ideas about the past. He had been doing it for 12 years. Before that, there had been a marriage. It lasted 6 years before it ended quietly, without drama, just two people who stopped trying to find common ground. His ex-wife moved to another state. They spoke only when necessary, usually about Tommy. Their son was 8 now, brown-haired and quick to laugh, the kind of kid who asked too many questions and never sat still. Donald raised him alone. Some mornings felt like drowning. Work, dinner, homework, bedtime, then wake up and do it again. But he loved the boy more than anything. When a colleague mentioned a woman who might be a good match, Donald hesitated. He had not thought about dating in years. The colleague insisted. Her name was Adela. She worked in marketing, made good money, and was easy to talk to. Donald agreed to meet her at a coffee shop on a Saturday afternoon. She arrived early, wearing a light blue dress and carrying a leather bag. She smiled when she saw him, and the smile felt genuine. They talked about nothing important at first: weather, traffic, favorite restaurants. Then she asked about Tommy. Donald showed her a photo on his phone. The boy was holding a toy robot, grinning at the camera. Adela leaned closer to look. She said the robot looked cool. She asked what Tommy liked to do. Donald told her about the soccer games, the dinosaur books, the way his son built elaborate castles out of couch cushions. Adela listened without interrupting. She seemed interested. That mattered to Donald more than he expected. They met again the following week, then again. Within months, she was coming to his apartment on weekends. She brought groceries and cooked pasta while Tommy did homework at the kitchen table. She asked the boy about school and laughed when he told her stories about his friends. Tommy liked her. He started calling her Miss Adela, then just Adela. One Sunday, she brought a remote-controlled robot as a gift. Tommy tore open the box and spent the afternoon making it spin and beep. Donald watched from the couch, feeling something close to contentment. It had been a long time since the apartment felt this warm. They went to the park together one Saturday in early spring. Tommy ran ahead, chasing a soccer ball across the grass. Adela sat next to Donald on a bench, her hand resting lightly on his. The sun was warm, families spread out on blankets nearby. For the first time in years, Donald let himself imagine a future that included someone other than just him and his son. Adela talked about her job. She managed campaigns for a large firm, the kind that worked with national brands. Her boss was a man named David Price. She mentioned him often, how he trusted her with big projects, how he pushed her to aim higher. Donald did not think much of it. Everyone had a boss. Everyone wanted to do well. She traveled for work. Miami one week, Chicago the next. Sometimes she was gone for 3 or 4 days. Donald missed her when she left, but he understood. Ambition was not a bad thing. He respected it. At night, after Tommy went to bed, Donald sometimes sat alone in the kitchen and thought about asking her to marry him. A year had passed since their first date. Things felt stable. She cared about Tommy. She made Donald feel less alone. He started saving money, not much, just a little each month, enough to buy a ring that meant something. He found one at a jewelry store downtown. It was simple, a thin band with a small diamond. The clerk told him it cost 3 months of savings. Donald handed over his credit card without hesitating. He kept the ring in a drawer beside his bed. Sometimes he took it out and looked at it, imagining the moment he would give it to her. He wanted it to be special, not flashy, just meaningful. When Adela mentioned she had a 3-day trip to Miami coming up, Donald saw his opportunity. He could fly down, surprise her, take her to dinner by the ocean. He could ask her there with the sound of waves in the background. It felt right. He called his mother and asked if she could watch Tommy for a few days. She agreed without asking questions. Donald booked a plane ticket. He packed light, just a change of clothes in the ring. He did not tell Adela. That was the point, a surprise. The flight left on a Thursday evening. Donald spent most of it staring out the window, rehearsing what he would say. He had never proposed to anyone before. His first marriage had just happened. No big moment, no plan. This time, he wanted to do it right. He landed in Miami at night. The air was humid, thick with salt from the ocean. He took a cab to the hotel where Adela was staying. It was a four-star place near the beach, tall and sleek, with glass doors and a lobby full of polished marble. Donald walked up to the front desk. The woman behind the counter smiled at him. He told her he wanted to send flowers to a guest room. Her name was Adela Carter, room 1205. The woman typed something into her computer, then looked up at him and said the room was registered to two guests, Miss Carter and Mr. David Price. Donald felt his stomach drop. He asked her to repeat it. She did. Two names, two guests, checked in together that afternoon. He thanked her and walked away from the desk. His hands felt cold, his chest tight. He took the elevator to the 12th floor. The hallway was quiet, carpeted in dark red. He found room 1205 and stood in front of the door. At first he heard nothing, then voices, laughter, a woman's voice. Adela's, light and playful. She said something he could not make out. Then a man's voice, deeper, responding. More laughter. Donald pressed his ear closer to the door. He heard the clink of glasses, champagne maybe, then silence, then breathing. Heavy, fast. Adela's voice again, softer now, almost a whisper. She said something about appreciation, about being taken care of. The man's voice replied. He called her sweetheart. Donald stepped back, his vision blurred. The ring was still in his pocket, a small weight pressing against his leg. He thought about knocking. He thought about shouting, but he did not move. He just stood there, listening to the woman he loved breathe in rhythm with someone else. Finally, he turned and walked back to the elevator. He rode it down to the lobby. He walked outside into the humid night. He stood on the sidewalk and stared at nothing. His phone buzzed. A text from Adela. She said she had just finished a late meeting, that she was exhausted, that she would call him tomorrow. She added a heart emoji at the end. Donald read the message 3 times, then put his phone away. He walked back into the hotel and booked himself a room on a different floor. He did not sleep. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the ring in his hand, trying to understand what had just happened. By morning, he had made a decision. He would not confront her. Not yet. He needed to know more. He needed to understand how long this had been going on, whether it was just once or many times, whether she ever loved him at all. He booked a flight home for later that day. Before he left, he stood on the beach and watched the sun rise over the ocean. The water was calm. The sky was pink and orange. It should have been beautiful, but all Donald felt was empty. He thought about Tommy, about how excited the boy would be to hear about a new mom, about how much it would hurt him if things fell apart. Donald could not let that happen. He had to protect his son, even if it meant protecting him from the truth. On the plane ride home, Donald stared out the window again. But this time, he was not rehearsing a proposal. He was planning what came next. He would watch. He would wait. He would find out exactly who Adela was, and then he would decide what to do. The ring stayed in his pocket. He did not know if he would ever take it out again. Donald's mother opened the door before he could knock. Tommy ran out and wrapped his arms around Donald's waist. The boy smelled like maple syrup and soap. He talked fast, asking about the trip, asking if Donald brought him anything. Donald ruffled his son's hair and said he forgot. Tommy did not seem to mind. He grabbed Donald's hand and pulled him inside. His mother stood in the hallway, drying her hands on a kitchen towel. She asked if everything went well. Donald said it was fine. She looked at him for a moment, then nodded and went back to the kitchen. She knew him well enough not to push. That night, after Tommy went to bed, Donald sat at the kitchen table with his laptop. He opened his email and scrolled through old messages from Adela, searching for anything he might have missed. Dates, memes, patterns. He found them. Back in February, she had said she was meeting a client in Atlanta. That same week, Donald had seen a post on LinkedIn from David Price. He was at a conference in Atlanta, same city, same dates. In March, Adela flew to Boston for a product launch. David posted photos from Boston that weekend. A hotel rooftop, a view of the harbor. In April, she went to San Diego. David was there too. Donald checked the company website. There was no mention of overlapping projects, no reason they both needed to be in the same city at the same time. Donald closed the laptop. He sat in the dark kitchen and felt something cold settle in his chest. This was not new. This had been happening for months, maybe longer. He thought about the night she had called him late, her voice tired, saying she just got out of a meeting. He thought about the morning she texted him from hotel rooms, saying she missed him. He had believed her every time. He went to bed but did not sleep. He stared at the ceiling and replayed every conversation, every moment, searching for the truth he had been too trusting to see. Days later, Adela came back. She knocked on his door on a Saturday afternoon, smiling, carrying a shopping bag. Inside was a toy truck for Tommy and a book for Donald. She kissed him on the cheek and asked how he had been. Donald said he was fine. He let her in. She sat on the couch and told him about the conference. She said it went well. She got a promotion. She was moving up to senior manager. She seemed happy. Donald asked if David Price was there. Adela looked at him, her smile fading slightly. She said yes. Her boss had been there. It was his project. Donald nodded. He did not ask anything else. That night, after Tommy fell asleep, Adela stayed. She sat close to Donald on the couch, her hand on his knee. She talked about taking a vacation together. Maybe the three of them could go somewhere, the beach maybe. Tommy would love it. Donald listened but did not respond. She noticed. She asked if something was wrong. He said he was tired, that work had been stressful. She accepted the answer and left an hour later. Over the next few weeks, Donald kept his distance. He made excuses. He had papers to grade. Tommy was not feeling well. He needed to help his mother with something. Adela did not push. She seemed distracted herself, busy with a new role. But Tommy noticed. One evening while they were eating dinner, the boy asked where Adela was. He said he missed her. He asked if she was coming over soon. Donald told him she was traveling for work. Tommy frowned and said he hoped she would come back soon. He liked having her around. It made things feel like a real family. Donald felt his chest tighten. He finished his dinner in silence. The following week, Adela sent him a gift. A box arrived at his apartment. Inside was an expensive watch and a handwritten note. The note said she was sorry for being distant, that she wanted to make it up to him, that she loved him. Donald put the watch back in the box. He did not wear it. A few days later, she called and invited him to dinner. She said she wanted to talk. She missed him. Donald hesitated, then agreed. He told himself he needed to hear what she had to say. He needed to give her a chance to be honest. They met at a restaurant downtown. It was quiet, with dim lighting and soft music playing in the background. Adela wore a black dress and smiled when she saw him. She reached across the table and took his hand. She said she knew things had been strange between them. She said she understood if he felt neglected. Her job was demanding. The promotion came with more responsibility, but she wanted him to know that he mattered to her. He and Tommy both. Donald asked her if there was anything she needed to tell him. Adela tilted her head, confused. He asked if she was being honest with him. She pulled her hand back and asked what he meant. Donald did not answer right away. He looked at her, searching her face for something real. Finally, he said he went to Miami. He said he wanted to surprise her. He said he heard her in the hotel room with David Price. Adela's face went pale. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked down at the table, then back at him, her eyes sharp. She asked if he followed her. Donald said no. He said he wanted to propose. He said he thought it would be romantic. Adela leaned back in her chair. She crossed her arms. She said he should have told her he was coming. She said it was inappropriate to show up unannounced. She said he invaded her privacy. Donald felt anger rise in his throat. He asked her to stop. He asked her to just tell the truth. Adela sighed. She said fine. She said David was in her room, but it was not what Donald thought. The hotel made a mistake with the booking. They were supposed to have separate rooms. David stopped by to go over notes for a presentation. That was it. Donald asked about the champagne, about the laughter, about the way she whispered to him. Adela said he was being paranoid. She said she was celebrating her promotion. She said David was her boss and her mentor. She said maintaining a good relationship with him was important for her career. She said Donald would not understand because he did not have those kinds of pressures. He had a stable job, a predictable income. He did not have to fight for anything. Donald stared at her. He asked if she loved him. Adela softened. She reached for his hand again. She said of course she did. She said he was good to her. She said she cared about him and Tommy, but she also needed him to trust her. She needed him to understand that her life was complicated. She needed space to do her job without feeling like he was watching her. Donald pulled his hand away. He stood up. He said he needed to think. Adela called after him, but he walked out of the restaurant and did not look back. He drove home in silence. When he got there, he sat in the car for 20 minutes before going inside. He thought about what she had said, about trust, about understanding. He wanted to believe her, but he could not. The next few weeks were quiet. Donald stopped inviting Adela over. She texted him occasionally, but he kept his responses short. She sent gifts for Tommy, a new video game, a book about space. The boy was thrilled. He asked when he would see her again. Donald said soon. He did not know if that was true. One evening, Donald stayed late at school to finish grading papers. When he left, it was already dark. He drove toward home but decided to stop by Adela's office. He told himself he just wanted to see her, to talk, to try again. He parked across the street from the building. The lights were still on in some of the windows. He waited. After 20 minutes, he saw her. She walked out of the main entrance. She was not alone. David Price was beside her. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark suit. He said something to Adela, and she laughed. He put his hand on her shoulder. She did not move away. They walked toward the parking garage. Donald watched them disappear around the corner. He waited. A few minutes later, a black sedan pulled out of the garage. David was driving. Adela was in the passenger seat. Donald's phone buzzed. A text from Adela. She said she had to work late, that she was sorry, that she would call him tomorrow. She added a heart. Donald put the phone down. He sat in his car and watched the taillights disappear down the street. He felt hollow, not angry, not sad, just empty. He drove home. Tommy was already asleep. Donald checked on him, then went to his own room. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. He thought about calling her, about demanding the truth, but he already knew the truth. He had known it since Miami. The question now was what to do with it. Days passed. Donald went through the motions. He taught his classes. He made breakfast for Tommy. He graded papers. He smiled when he was supposed to. But inside, something was breaking. He started doubting himself. He wondered if he was enough, if he had ever been enough. Adela was ambitious, successful, confident. She moved in circles he did not understand. She wore expensive clothes and dined with executives. He was a high school teacher who lived paycheck to paycheck. Maybe she needed more than he could give. Maybe he was the problem. One night he stood in front of the bathroom mirror and looked at himself. He saw a tired man, lines around his eyes, gray hair starting to show. He was 38 years old and felt older. He thought about calling her, about apologizing, about trying harder to be what she needed. But then he remembered the way she had looked at David, the way she laughed, the way she sat in his car without a second thought. Donald turned off the light and went to bed. A week later, Adela came to his apartment unannounced. She said she missed him. She said they needed to fix this. She brought takeout and set it on the kitchen table. Tommy was thrilled to see her. He hugged her and showed her a drawing he made at school. Adela sat with him and looked at the drawing. She asked him about his day. She listened. She smiled. She was good at this. Donald watched from the doorway, torn between wanting her to stay and wanting her to leave. After Tommy went to bed, Adela turned to Donald. She said they needed to talk. She said she understood why he was upset. She said she would try to be more transparent. She said she wanted this to work. Donald asked her if she was sleeping with David. Adela's face hardened. She said no. She said she already told him what happened in Miami. She said he needed to let it go. Donald asked why she lied about working late when she left with David. Adela looked confused. Donald told her what he saw, her getting into David's car, her texting him that she was working. Adela stood up. She said he was spying on her. She said this was unhealthy. She said he was being controlling. Donald did not raise his voice. He just asked her to leave. Adela grabbed her bag and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned and said he was making a mistake. She said he was throwing away something good because of jealousy. She said she deserved better. The door closed behind her. Donald stood alone in the kitchen. He did not feel victorious. He felt defeated, but he also felt something else, a small, quiet certainty. He could not live like this. He could not love someone who made him doubt his own worth. 2 weeks later, Tommy asked to use Adela's iPad. She had left it at the apartment during her last visit. Donald handed it to him. The boy sat on the couch and opened a game. A few minutes later, a notification popped up. A message from David Price. Tommy called out to Donald. He said there was a message. Donald walked over and took the iPad. He opened the message thread. His hands went cold. The messages went back months, dozens of them. Flirtations, plans, confirmations of hotel bookings, photos, inside jokes. And then, near the bottom, something that made Donald's stomach turn. David had written that the Singapore trip was confirmed. Presidential suite, 5 nights. He asked if Adela was excited. Adela replied that she was nervous. She said Donald was getting suspicious. David said not to worry. He said Donald seemed like the type who would not cause trouble. Too nice, too passive. He said Adela deserves someone who matched her ambition, someone like him. Adela wrote back that Donald was a good man, but David was right. Donald was too predictable, too safe. She said maybe later, when she wanted to settle down, Donald would make sense. But not now. Now she wanted more. She said she deserved it. Donald read the messages 3 times. Then he took screenshots and sent them to his own email. He deleted the evidence from the iPad and gave it back to Tommy. The boy did not notice anything wrong. That night, Donald sat alone in the dark. He did not cry. He did not rage. He just felt the weight of it settle over him. Not heartbreak, something worse, the realization that he had been a placeholder, a backup plan, a safe option for a future Adela did not even want yet. He had never been loved. He had been used. The next morning, he called Adela. He said they needed to meet. She agreed. She sounded relieved. She probably thought he was ready to forgive her. They met at a coffee shop near the park. Adela arrived on time, dressed casually, smiling. She sat across from him and ordered a latte. She said she was glad he called. She said she wanted to move forward. Donald did not smile. He took out his phone and placed it on the table. He opened the screenshots and slid the phone toward her. Adela looked down, her face drained of color. She picked up the phone and scrolled through the messages. Her hands shook. She put the phone down and looked at him. She started to speak, but Donald held up his hand. He said he did not want to hear excuses. He said he did not want apologies. He said he just wanted her to know that he saw her, all of her, and he was done. Adela's eyes filled with tears. She said it was not what it looked like. She said the messages were taken out of context. She said she and David were just venting about work stress. Donald stood up. He said she could keep lying if it made her feel better, but he was finished. He walked out of the coffee shop and did not look back. Donald spent the next 3 days alone with his thoughts. He did not call anyone. He did not vent to friends. He simply moved through his routine, teaching, cooking, helping Tommy with homework. The boy asked about Adela once. Donald said she was busy. Tommy nodded and went back to his video game. At night, Donald sat at the kitchen table and wrote down what he wanted to say, not in anger, not to hurt her, just to close the door with clarity. He rewrote it 4 times until the words felt right. On the 4th day, he texted Adela and asked to meet. She replied within minutes. She said yes. She suggested a quiet cafe on the north side of town. Donald agreed. He arrived early and chose a table near the window. The cafe was nearly empty. A woman at the counter read a book. A man typed on a laptop in the corner. Donald ordered black coffee and waited. Adela walked in later. She looked different. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup. She wore jeans and a plain sweater. She looked tired. She sat down across from him and folded her hands on the table. She did not smile. She just looked at him, waiting. Donald did not waste time. He said he wanted to talk one last time. She nodded. He told her he had spent the past few days thinking about everything. About Miami, about the messages, about the lies. He said he was not angry anymore. He was just done. Adela opened her mouth to speak, but Donald raised his hand gently. He said he needed her to listen first. He told her he understood ambition. He understood wanting more from life. He did not blame her for that, but he also understood that love was not supposed to be conditional. It was not supposed to be a backup plan. It was not supposed to make someone feel small. He said she had made him feel small, not because she was successful, not because she wanted things he could not give, but because she had treated his kindness like weakness. She had used his trust as a tool, and she had never once looked at him the way she looked at David. Adela's eyes filled with tears. She said he was wrong. She said she did care about him. She said David was a mistake. She said it got out of hand. She said work and ambition blurred the lines. She said she never meant to hurt him. Donald listened, then he said he believed her. He believed she never meant to hurt him. But that did not change the fact that she did. He told her he had loved her truly. He had imagined a life with her. He had bought a ring. He had flown to Miami to ask her to marry him. He had wanted to build something real. But now he knew the truth. She had never wanted that, not with him. Maybe someday, when she was tired of chasing what she thought she deserved. But not now, not with him. Adela wiped her eyes. She said he was being unfair. She said people made mistakes. She said she was willing to fix it. She said she would end things with David. She said she would be better. Donald shook his head. He said it was not about David. It was about the fact that she saw Donald as safe, predictable, easy, a good man to settle for later. He said he was a good man, but he was not a fallback option. Adela looked down at the table. She did not argue. She just sat there, shoulders slumped, tears falling silently. Donald stood up. He said he forgave her. He said he did not want to carry anger, but he also could not choose her anymore. He said he deserved to be someone's first choice, not their safety net. He told her he hoped she found what she was looking for. Then he walked out of the cafe and did not look back. The air outside was cool. The sky was overcast. Donald got in his car and drove home. He felt lighter, not happy, just lighter. When he got home, Tommy was building a tower out of blocks in the living room. The boy looked up and grinned. He asked if Donald wanted to help. Donald sat down on the floor and started stacking blocks. They worked in silence for a while. Then Tommy knocked the tower over and laughed. Donald laughed too. That night, after Tommy went to bed, Donald took the ring out of the drawer. He looked at it for a long time. Then he put it in a small box and placed it on the top shelf of his closet. He did not throw it away, but he did not need to see it anymore. Over the next few weeks, Donald focused on work. He started a tutoring program for students who struggled with history. He stayed late after school, helping kids who needed extra time. It felt good. It reminded him why he became a teacher in the first place. Tommy seemed happier too. He stopped asking about Adela. He made new friends at school. He joined a soccer team. Donald went to every game and cheered from the sidelines. One Saturday afternoon, a parent approached Donald after a game. She thanked him for helping her son pass his history class. She said he was a good teacher. She said her son talked about him all the time. Donald thanked her. The words stayed with him longer than he expected. He started to see himself differently, not as someone who was not enough, but as someone who had always been enough. The problem was never him. It was that he had given his heart to someone who did not value it the same way. Months after the breakup, Donald heard through a colleague that Adela and David were no longer together. Apparently, David had moved on to someone younger, a new hire. Adela had also left the company. The colleague did not know where she went. Donald did not ask for details. He did not feel satisfaction. He did not feel vindication. He just felt neutral. It was her life, not his. A year passed. Donald settled into a rhythm. Work Tommy, weekends at the park, dinners with his mother. Small moments that added up to something steady. He was not looking for love. He was not avoiding it either. He was just living. One autumn afternoon, Donald took Tommy to the park near their apartment. The leaves were turning gold and red. The air smelled like earth and rain. Tommy ran ahead, chasing a dog that had gotten loose from its owner. Donald sat on a bench and watched. The sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows across the grass. Families were scattered around the park. A couple played frisbee. A group of kids climbed on the jungle gym. Then he saw her. Adela was sitting on a bench across the path. She was alone. Her hair was shorter. She wore a gray coat and looked thinner than he remembered. She was staring at the ground, lost in thought. Donald's first instinct was to leave, but something stopped him. Maybe curiosity, maybe closure. He stood and walked toward her. She looked up when he was a few feet away. Her eyes widened. She stood quickly, almost knocking over her bag. She said his name. He nodded. They stood there for a moment, neither knowing what to say. Then Adela gestured to the bench. She asked if he wanted to sit. Donald looked over at Tommy, still playing near the trees, then sat down beside her. She asked how he was. He said he was good. She asked about Tommy. He said the boy was doing well, growing fast. Adela nodded. She said she was glad. Donald asked if she was okay. She looked at him, surprised by the question. Then she smiled faintly and said she was getting there. She told him she had left the marketing firm. She was working freelance now. Smaller projects, less pressure. She said it was better, quieter. Donald did not ask about David. He did not need to. Adela looked down at her hands. She said she thought about him sometimes, about what happened. She said she was sorry, not in the defensive way she had been before, just simple, honest. She said she had made a lot of mistakes. She said she hurt people. She said she hurt him, and she was sorry. Donald looked at her. He saw someone different from the woman he had loved. Someone tired. Someone who had learned something hard. He told her he forgave her. He said he had already forgiven her a long time ago. She asked if he hated her. He shook his head. He said he did not. He said he understood. People wanted different things. Sometimes those things did not align. It did not make anyone evil, just human. Adela nodded. She asked if he was happy. Donald thought about it. Then he said yes, he was. She smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her in a long time. She said she was glad. She said he deserved it. They sat in silence for a while. Then Tommy ran over, out of breath, asking if they could go get ice cream. Donald stood up. He introduced Tommy to Adela. The boy did not remember her. He just waved politely. Adela waved back. She told Donald it was good to see him. He said the same. Then he took Tommy's hand and walked toward the parking lot. As they left, Donald glanced back once. Adela was still sitting on the bench watching the sunset. She looked small but not broken, just different. Donald turned away and focused on his son. Tommy was talking about soccer practice, about a goal he almost scored, about a friend who told a funny joke. Donald listened and smiled. When they got to the car, Tommy asked who that woman was. Donald said she was someone he used to know. Tommy asked if she was nice. Donald said yes, she was. They drove to the ice cream shop. Tommy ordered chocolate. Donald ordered vanilla. They sat outside on a picnic table and watched the sky turn pink. Tommy asked if Donald was okay. Donald looked at his son, surprised. He asked why he was asking. Tommy shrugged. He said Donald seemed quiet lately, but in a good way. Donald smiled. He said he was okay, better than okay. Tommy nodded and went back to his ice cream. Donald watched him, feeling something warm and steady in his chest. Not excitement, not romance, just peace. That night, after Tommy went to bed, Donald stood on the small balcony outside his apartment. The city was quiet. A few cars passed on the street below. The air was cool. He thought about Adela, about the year they spent together, about the pain, about the healing. He did not regret any of it. It had taught him something important. He had learned that love was not about being chosen. It was about choosing yourself first. It was about knowing your worth and not settling for anything less. He had learned that kindness was not weakness, that being predictable was not boring, that being safe was not the same as being small. He had learned that he was enough. He had always been enough. A notification buzzed on his phone, a message from a parent thanking him for helping their daughter with a history project. Donald read it and smiled. He put the phone away and looked up at the sky. The stars were faint, dimmed by the city lights, but they were there, constant, steady. Donald took a deep breath and went inside. He checked on Tommy one more time, then went to his own room. He lay down and closed his eyes. For the first time in a long time, he felt ready. Not for a new relationship, not for another person to complete him, just ready to be himself fully, without fear. Sometimes love did not stay. Sometimes it came to teach a lesson. And sometimes the lesson was this: that the most important person to love was the one staring back at you in the mirror. Donald had learned that lesson, and he was finally at peace. The story of Donald and Adela delivers a heart-rending yet empowering lesson about self-worth and the courage to walk away from a love that diminishes you. Donald's journey from the hope of a new beginning with Adela to the crushing betrayal in Miami reveals that true love does not make you feel small or question your value. His choice to confront the truth, despite the pain, and to prioritize his dignity over a relationship built on lies, teaches us that we must choose ourselves first, even when it hurts. The quiet strength he found in routine, in his son Tommy's laughter, and in his own resilience reminds us that healing is not about erasing the past, but about rediscovering our inherent worth. Adela's betrayal exposed her inability to value Donald's kindness, but his forgiveness and decision to move forward show that letting go is not weakness, it's reclaiming power. This story resonates because it mirrors our own struggles with trust, heartbreak, and the fear of not being enough. Yet it assures us that we are always enough for ourselves. What lessons have you learned from heartbreak? How have you reclaimed your worth? Share your stories in the comments below. Your voice could inspire someone else. If this tale touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to join our community. Let's keep exploring these powerful stories together. Your support fuels our mission to share narratives that heal and uplift.